To start recording, press on the Record Manometry Data button in the main menu screen. As this is the demonstration version of the program, we'll be using some pre-recorded data to demonstrate the data acquisition functions. First, you'll need to load a calibration file. You should select the most recent file you have created and press on OK. Select a patient from the list. If you type in part of the patient's name into the search box, patients with that text in their name will be listed. To show a complete list, click on Show All or press F7. You can see the patient's details in the pink-sided box, and you can edit these by clicking on Edit Entry, as described in the video about the patient database. If the patient you want to record from is not listed, click on Add New Entry and enter the patient details as described in the video about the patient database. Select a patient and click on Select this patient to move to the data acquisition screen. When you enter this screen, you will see the current data in the graph at the top of the screen. By default, this displays 16 channels, and the digital values corresponding to each channel are on the right. Check the digital values to ensure that the perfusion pressures are stable and approximately what you expect. Because this is bringing in the demonstration data, they are of course changing, but normally if you are perfusing flat or underwater, they should be quite stable. You can turn the display of the digital channels on or off using the digital display button. The brown button sets the atmospheric reference pressures, which must be done prior to the catheter being introduced into the patient. Setting the atmospheric reference pressure compensates for the differences in pressure required to perfuse each lumen of the manometric catheter, and is performed with the catheter perfused either flat or preferably in a bowl of water. It's also important to have the catheter at approximately the level of the patient, if possible. Press on the button marked Set Ref for all selected, and the digital values should change to 0. They won't in this example because of the data that is coming in. Check that the values are stable and that they move when you lift the manometric catheter up. If they are unstable, there may be a bubble in that channel of the catheter, and if they do not rise when you lift the catheter up, that channel may not be perfusing, or there may be a problem with your calibration. Generally, you will not need to adjust the reference values or the channels to reference. If you need to repeat the process, press on F1 to make the button reappear, and you can then press it to reference again. The controls in the light blue box change how the data is displayed on the screen, but do not affect the data that is recorded to the file. The box marked 16 determines the type of display and is a pull-down menu. Select Color Plot to display the color plot of your data. In this display, there is a graphical representation of the position of the recording points on the manometric catheter on the left, and the scale displays the distance of each point from the nose, assuming that the depth of insertion control is correct. Showing the color plot also brings up a number of other options. You can select the color scheme to be used, and you can set the internal gastric baseline to which the pressures will be referenced. The gastric baseline is set by clicking on the Set Baseline button, which will subtract the current intragastric pressure in the baseline channel from all pressures. You can see this by the change in colour at that point. The baseline channel can be adjusted and should be the channel which is in the stomach. You can do this using the numeric control, but generally it will be channel 15 or channel 16 in esophageal manometry. The baseline pressure that is currently used is displayed above the baseline channel. You can adjust this manually if you wish, and if the plot has an unusual colour, the problem may lie in the pressure to which you have referenced the other pressures. See how the background colours change as I adjust this control. At the right-hand end of the lower part of the screen are the buttons that control data acquisition. Data is recorded in 30-second blocks called data logs, and the current position within that block is indicated by the green bar. When the green bar reaches the right-hand end of the display, the current 30-second data log is either recorded or discarded. If the green recording button is shown at this time, the data will be saved. Changes to the recording button have no effect at any time other than at this instant. The rec display above the recording button shows how many minutes of data have been recorded. The distal channel expanded control expands the data in the most distal recording channel by the number of millimetres displayed. This is purely for visualization and does not affect the data recorded, but makes it easier to see what is happening at the lower end of the catheter. To stop recording, click on Press to Stop, and when the green bar meets the right-hand end, data acquisition will stop. The channels on display allows you to selectively turn off channels that are not working. Data will still be recorded to the disk, but not displayed on the screen. This is useful where a particular channel has a very high or low value due to artifact and is affecting the display of adjacent channels. The colour changes from white to red in the display of the manometric catheter, and data is interpolated across this region. The name and ID number of the patient from whom the data is being recorded is displayed in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Above this, the dark blue box contains the marker controls and the depth of insertion. The marker controls allow you to enter markers to aid in analysis. The marker text box can have text entered manually. Press on Mark Now to save that text as a marker. A vertical line will appear in the data to indicate that a marker has been entered, and the number of markers that have been entered will increment. Above the marker text box is a pull-down menu containing a list of markers which has been configured in the report's default screen. Selecting one of these will enter the text into the marker text box. These can be automatically incremented by clicking on the counting button, which is useful when performing a series of swallows. When counting is activated, each press of the Mark Now button both enters a marker and increments the number at the end of the marker. You can show previous markers that you have entered by clicking on the Show Markers button. Clicking on the Delete Text button will clear the marker text box, and clicking on the trash button will delete the previous marker in the analysis display. The depth of insertion control should be adjusted so that the number corresponds to the depth of insertion of the manometric catheter at the nostril. Changing this will automatically enter a marker. You can either type in the new number or use the arrows at the side to increment and decrement the number. Each time the depth changes, a new marker is entered, so if you have to change it by a significant amount, it's more efficient to type in the new number. Note how the distances along the side of the colour plot display change as the marker value, as the depth of insertion changes. The current computed time is displayed, along with the number of seconds since the marker button was last pressed. This is useful in checking the time between a patient's swallows. To stop recording, click on Press to Stop and wait until the green bar reaches the right-hand end of its display. You will then return to the main menu.